The fantasy football entourage for winning.
Welcome, Entourage. If you're live, it's a pleasure to see you guys live. If you're watching the replay, you too can get on the live for week 3 or future weeks. Start Sit Questions. What I do is every Saturday morning for my private group, I have a live especially for them, and they could ask all the questions they want. And throughout the week, they're guaranteed all their questions answered in my private Facebook group. That is only $70 for the whole season, which is way less than my competitors who usually charge for the same services $50 a month and they don't get half the content or the attention that I give you guys. It also includes the premium content that I'm always mentioning with my waiver wire gems and free agent finds, my complete list of buy, sell, holds. Geez, I can't talk today. As well as my rankings that come out on Thursday and a revised rankings that come out later this evening after all the practice reports and I'm done watching all my game film. For those of you who are new to the channel, definitely subscribe and like, but I want you to know the type of effort that goes into doing what I do. I literally go back and watch every single game over. Okay. And I do that because I'm heavily involved in season-long fantasy, DFS, and betting as well. I have groups for all of those. If you're interested, leave a comment, DM me at Fantasy Football Rapper on Instagram, or email me fantasyfootballrapper@gmail.com. Well, now it is time for you guys have the floor. All right. Thank you for joining me on this beautiful Saturday morning. At least it's beautiful where I am. I'm on an island in Puerto Rico. I can't complain. Feeling good. Last week was kind of wacky. This week, I think we're gonna start week 3. Usually 3-4 weeks is when we really start noticing trends. You could have a good week, you could have 2 good weeks, or you could have a bad week, you could have 2 bad weeks. But after 3 or 4 weeks, we really start to know who's who. That doesn't mean that players can't come on late, because we see it every year, especially with rookies and injuries happen. So new players get opportunities. But pretty much we know what these players, what these offenses and defenses and overall teams are going to look like. All right, guys. So I'll wait for you guys to, come in. And Frank, what's good? What's good, buddy? Do you have any questions about your lineup today? I know, I'm pretty thorough with the, trade targets and the waiver gems and answer your questions throughout the week, as well as the rankings. But there has been new news, and that's why I do a revised rankings as well, because Friday is the big practice day. You could miss practice on Wednesday, you could miss practice on Thursday, or you could be limited. But if you miss practice on Friday, then most likely you're not going to play. And some of the players that we know are out for sure, some of the big ones, Josh Jacobs, T. Higgins. The jury is still out on DeAndre Hopkins, but he didn't practice, so I doubt he's going to play, especially they have to travel to Jacksonville. Jacksonville is not all that scary. I mean, it's the NFL any given Sunday. But my guess is DeAndre Hopkins will not be playing, which means Rondale Moore is a pretty good start. Fun fact, he leads the Arizona Cardinals in targets. Now, no player is really averaging that many targets. I believe he had 5 targets the first game and 8 targets the second game. However, the snap percentage has continuously gone up. Okay, just under 30% week 1. About 50% week 2, and led the team in targets with 8. He had his first 100-yard game. He had a touchdown. I really like what I seen out of Rondale Moore. Now, I haven't been talking about him enough, and that's why it's important to watch game film. It wasn't until I went back and watched the film and I saw how many manufactured plays the Arizona Cardinals involved Rondale Moore. And this guy is slippery. He's tremendously fast, athletic. He can get open all day, and he has a juicy matchup with or without DeAndre Hopkins. If DeAndre Hopkins misses, he is the clear wide receiver one, in my opinion, for that team. Christian Kirk, he's had time to prove himself. And yeah, he'll have an occasional big game, and it might be against Jacksonville, but I'm putting my money on Rondale Moore and AJ Green, even though he had a touchdown last week. A porous Tennessee secondary. I believe he's past his time, and that's why, again, I like Rondale Moore. What's going on, Jonathan? So do you guys have any questions for me? Or are you just here to hang out? Well, I'll continue. Josh Jacobs, right? Josh Jacobs is out. Drake's going to be more the PPR guy, okay? Peyton Barber, though, he just signed on to the team and had 13 rushes his first game. Well, now he plays a horrible Miami run defense. So Peyton Barber could actually be a sneaky play. And I hate to admit this, I'm actually starting him in one of my leagues. Yeah, it's kind of bad early on. But Peyton Barber against Miami Dolphins, I think he could be good for a touchdown. That Miami defense having to travel all the way to Vegas from one party city to another party city. Maybe it won't faze Miami as much because they're used to partying anyway. But that road trip with already a bad defense, all eyes are going to be on Derek Carr and the passing game because that's all everybody was talking about. I think Peyton Barber is a sneaky play, and Drake too in a revenge game. But Peyton Barber, most likely you could get him for free. All right, Jonathan, finally a question. So Jonathan is stuck between Boyd, Mike Davis, Pollard, and Javonte at flex. Okay, now this is where I tend to break it down. I use these questions as a teaching opportunity, and so you guys see where my head is at, okay? Because obviously you could just look at the rankings, and I recommend looking at the rankings, okay? But I see where this, confusion could be coming. Let's face it. Boyd, T. Higgins is out. Boyd's a good player coming off a 14-point game, right? Mike Davis, even though Cordell Patterson stole the show, he is still getting about 70% of the snaps, I believe. He hasn't looked that bad. To be quite frank, he's just had tough matchups. In week 2, he played the Bucs, one of the best against the run. Week 1, they played who they play week 1? Oh, Philadelphia. Again, 2 tough run defenses, but he's getting the snaps and he's getting targets, and he hasn't looked bad, in my opinion, because I watched him on film. Pollard. Now, Pollard, here's the thing. I don't like chasing numbers. Pollard has looked very good, but he's still not getting a ton of snaps. He's done a lot with the snaps, but I'd rather chase the volume than chase efficiency. Okay? So it's, for me, Pollard is probably the odd man out. And then last but not least, Javonte Williams, right? So Boyd, I think Javonte Williams, as much as I love Javonte Williams, he's super talented. I recommend everybody go get him if you don't already. Denver's not a potent offense. He's not getting the volume or the snap percentage of a Mike Davis, okay? And despite what you might see on paper, the Jets aren't that bad against running backs. They've just played bad, okay? They played CMC week 1. Well, everybody looks bad against CMC, okay? And then week 2, outside of that scamper by Damian Harris, where the Jets just forgot to tackle, they pretty much contained him. James White did have a good game, but it was more in the passing game, even though he snuck in a rushing touchdown. So I believe this matchup is a little bit deceiving, okay? So for me, it comes down to Boyd and Mike Davis. The Giants are actually pretty good against the run themselves. I would have to probably go with Boyd. I'll probably go with Boyd because, again, he at Pittsburgh, they're playing without TJ Watt. And then Cincinnati's playing without T. Higgins. So I believe the added opportunity, Pittsburgh is a little, they could be had in the secondary. So I think I would lean Boyd here. But I think they're all very close. It could be a situation where any one of them is the leader. But yeah, I think long story short, Boyd would be my pick here. I'm good with my lineups, I think. What would you do CMC in Dynasty? I have Chuba on that squad and can compete. Yeah, if you got Chuba, don't even consider trading CMC because number one, it doesn't look to be serious. He wasn't put on the IR. He'll probably be missed 2 or 3 weeks, which is fine. The way we build teams on Entourage, you should have depth, and you do. You just mentioned you have Hubbard. So if you have Hubbard, forget about it. CMC, I mean, he got injured last year. He came back, looked amazing. He comes off an injury this year, came back, looked amazing. So, yeah, CMC still got plenty left in the tank. You have Hubbard, like you just said. There's no reason to trade him. Need to make up points after CMC went down and my opponent had more. Also, Hunt versus Robinson at running back. I definitely like Robinson. Another situation where he obviously hasn't produced, but he did have 14 touches. He did have 80% of the running back touches, okay? And he looks good. Robinson is a good running back, and he's somebody I would definitely buy low on. If you guys don't have Robinson, I will go get him. He's extremely cheap. He plays on passing downs. He could catch the football. He could protect the quarterback, and he looks good. And it looks like he's going to be the main back. So there's a lot of upside. I think Trevor Lawrence, as the season progresses, is going to be a lot better, which means their offense as a whole is going to be a lot better. Okay, so I prefer James Robinson. Kareem Hunt is very dicey, doesn't get a lot of touches, kind of more game flow, game script. Chicago's good defense. So I definitely like James Robinson in this game better. Trey Sermon or Allen Robinson, you got to start your studs. I'm not going to say that this is a great matchup for Allen Robinson. Trey Sermon's got the better matchup, but there's also a lot of uncertainty in that matchup. Trey Sermon, I mean, he was inactive week 1, so obviously he hasn't looked great, even though I love, the soft matchup against the Packers. But Allen Robinson hasn't looked great either, but, he deserves the right to start based on his overall body of work, Let's see what he does with Justin Fields. I believe when I was watching back the film, he had 1 touchdown. He should have had 2 touchdowns, though. I think it was a drop or something like that happened. So, yeah, maybe Justin Fields is a good thing. And Cleveland Browns tend to be very generous in the secondary. They've been pretty decent against the run. So start your studs, man. Teddy B, Daniel Jones, Goff, or Heineke? Definitely Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones, fifth quarterback in the league right now. Now, with that said, because again, what did I tell you guys? I do DFS, I do betting. So I look at things through different lenses, okay? And one thing that makes me uneasy is when everybody is really high on a player and then his price is really cheap. Like, this could very, very, very well be a letdown game. I'm not going to bullshit you, but it's better than your other options. I mean, Heineke, as much as I love him, I really do. He looked really good. But Buffalo and Carolina have been the 2 best defenses this year, and he's traveling to Buffalo. Tough place to play. So, yeah, and then Teddy Bridgewater, he also has clunker potential. Again, I think the Jets defense is better than people realize. It's just their offense has been atrocious. So while I think Daniel Jones can have a letdown game, just like, I hated this. Like, I picked Kansas City, right, in my betting, right? And Oh, then everybody was on Kansas City's bandwagon, and what happened? The Chiefs won. Like, I hate when people love a player or a team because it always sets up for a letdown. But that said, I think Daniel Jones has a pretty safe floor. It's Atlanta. He can rush. But I think Barkley will take some of that rushing away. But yeah, long story short, again, we're breaking shit down here. Daniel Jones is the move, regardless of, the possible letdown. Definitely not Goff. Now watch Goff go off. It's fantasy football. But no, Daniel Jones is the right play here. Or Kirk. Oh, Kirk. I think, damn, I said all of that, and now you just threw Kirk at me, or maybe you did it right after and I didn't see it. I think I would go Kirk then. I think I would go Kirk for the simple fact, I just finished telling you, Daniel Jones, letdown game. But I think Seattle is going to come out pissed. They lost a bad game at home, which means there's going to score points, which means Vikings are going to have to keep up. Vikings have been scoring points. Kirk Cousins has been a solid QB1 in those games. They might be playing without Dalvin Cook, which means they're going to throw even more. Seattle's pretty good against the rush, regardless of what you saw Derrick Henry do. Derrick Henry he's not human. So I would pick Kirk in this game. And again, a lot has to do with the total points predicted by Vegas. I think it's going to be a high-scoring matchup, probably, the highest scoring game. I think that here's a bonus for you guys because I love you guys. I think I would pick the under on the Rams and Bucks game. And I think this Seattle Vikings game has a chance to be the highest scoring game on the slate, which means we want as many players in these higher scoring games. No, guys. Josh Allen is fine. The question was, any concern season long with Josh Allen? I mean, dude played Pittsburgh and Miami and didn't really need to do nothing because they beat Miami 35-0. I'm not concerned about Allen. I'm not selling him after a couple good games. If you could buy him on the low, get him on the low, guys. We have to look at a player's total body of work. Now, if the player's old, like AJ Green, we don't want to look at his total body of work, right? But Josh Allen is obviously not old. He hasn't even started his prime. So, no, Josh Allen will be fine. But he has another tough matchup. I'm not going to lie. Team Washington is a good defense. They were playing on a short week, so I'm not going to hold that against them. But Josh Allen is good. Yeah. Yeah, Cole Kmet. Interesting play. The ability is there. Hopefully, Justin Fields is a better passer than what I think. You see, to me, Justin Fields, I think a great comp is Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts, he doesn't always look pretty throwing the football, but he puts up points. But the problem with Jalen Hurts, he's not very good for his receivers. Yeah, Devontae Smith had a good week one. It's Atlanta. Yeah, Quez Watkins but nobody started Quez Watkins. So I think it's going to be, somebody new each week. But hopefully he's better. Rookies tend to lean under tight end. I said this before. For some reason, I don't know what it is, but running quarterbacks, and I guess maybe because a lot of these running quarterbacks are not very good quarterbacks, they tend to lean under tight end. Mike Vick did it. Lamar Jackson's done it. Look, Cam Newton with Greg Olsen, they tend to lean on the tight end. So hopefully history repeats itself and that trend continues. So hopefully Cole Kmet can come alive because the talent's definitely there. I mean, his pro comp was Travis Kelce. Okay. And they traded up to select him in the second round, I believe. So hand chosen by Matt Nagy. But if you are desperate at tight end, like a lot of us are, Evan Ingram might be available on your waiver. He has a really good matchup against Atlanta. Gronk just scored 2 touchdowns on them. I think Dallas Goedert week 1 had a touchdown on him. So if it's between starting Cole Kmet and Evan Ingram this week, if you need a win, because we need to start taking that, especially if you're 1-1 or especially if you're 0-2, maybe 1-1. Like there's a couple teams I'm 1-1. I just don't feel good about the teams because injuries happen or something like that. So I'm more like in win now mode. So just keep that win now mode, and you'll worry about the drops later. You might have to drop some good players or whatever, but the important thing is to win each week. Don't always like play for the future. All right. So if you're trying to win this week, even though I might like Cole Kmet better long term, every week is important. I like Evan Ingram this week. So if Evan Ingram is on the waivers, it's risky. He's coming off an injury, but I like Evan Ingram if you're starting Cole Kmet or if he's the weakest link. But maybe you have somebody else you could drop. I don't know, I'm not looking at your roster right now, but Evan Ingram is a sneaky play. So is Tyler Higby, actually. And he might be available as well. Tampa bad against the tight ends. And, Vegas got that game being the highest scoring, I think 55.5 points. I think the Rams are very good D. Last time Brady saw the Rams D, remember? Super Bowl. Lowest scoring Super Bowl ever. I think Brady is, as much as I love Brady, as good as he looks, he's played some soft defenses and he hasn't looked that great. The Dallas game, he had several turnovers. Atlanta is a cakewalk. I think Brady's definitely a sell high. And I think Brady's a little overrated, to be quite frank. Not he's the GOAT, but this year I think Brady's overrated, and I think he's going to show his age this weekend. I think Rams will win that game, and I think I'm not going to say they go blow them out, but I don't think it's going to be all that close like people think, especially since they're at home. Evan Ingram is available in your league. Would you start him over Goddard? I don't think I'm ready to go that far. Now, can he produce more than Dallas Goedert? Yes, and they're both dicey. But when they're both dicey like that, I'll go with the player that's been playing all season, and Dallas Goedert is playing Dallas. Dallas is bad against the tight end. Another team, Gronk, had 2 touchdowns, okay? And Jared Cook should have had another touchdown, but it got called back. See, that's what watching game film does. It's important to see the way players are being featured, their red zone looks, certain plays got called back. I now know that DK Metcalf is getting put in the slot. They move him around side to side. Because here's the thing, guys. When you look up this stuff, everybody says men lie, women lie, numbers don't. Fuck, they don't. Numbers definitely lie, and stats lie too. So you got to read between the numbers, and the only way to do that is to watch film. And now I know that they moved Justin Jefferson here, there, in the slot, and that's accustomed to. So when people see these matchups, when Tyler Lockett got open for these deep touchdowns, and again, you got to watch, it wasn't against Tennessee's slot corner. No, they moved him around. He got put on the linebacker. He blew past the linebacker, got in between the safety. But then the matchup's always going to read the slot corner. Okay? So just so you guys know, matchups, overrated. And they'll say it. And then the stats will say, oh, yeah, well, he's the right receiver. But then they line him up in the left side. And, and that's the side that Trey Flowers is on. And all it takes is one big play. Because, if you're lined up 60, 70, 80% on the right, and then they switch you to the left, all it takes is that one big play, especially when you're a big-time receiver like a Lockett, like a Jefferson. I'm trying to trade for DK in every single league and have been unsuccessful so far. Staying on it, though. Yeah. DK, to me, is going to win leagues. Remember, DK was my number 1 wide receiver, overall wide receiver. I'm usually not off. I could be off, but I'm usually not way off, which means, and watching him on film, and watching him this past week, and watching them move him around, I love what I'm seeing out of DK because he's not just going for the deep ball, and he could do that too. So if you guys can trade for DK, I love what you're doing, Jack. Stay aggressive. He's worth it. Whatever you're giving up for DK, I guarantee it'll be worth it. It will be worth it. The talent's there. And in this case, the numbers don't lie because he's one of the leaders in targets. And they're actually using him like a number one receiver, not just like a go deep DK. I still have him as my number one receiver. Still. I'm not going to base 2 weeks. Still. Because even though everybody's like, what's going on with DK? He still hasn't been that bad. If this is his floor, oh, man. Yeah, it's coming, guys. Believe me, it is coming. Not only DK, but Jefferson as well. Calvin Ridley will have better days. I think Ridley's great, but I'm still worried about his injuries, still worried about that offense. But DK and Jefferson, I'm a little worried about A.J. Brown, but he's a buy too. But those two particularly, man, get your hands on them. Do whatever it takes. It'll be worth it. I promise you. What else? We got any more questions, comments, concerns? Yeah, Atlanta's offense a little shaky. You know what? I take that back. They actually didn't look bad. And I wouldn't consider myself a Giants fan, but they're kind of like my second team. I'm from New York. When I was a kid, they won the Super Bowl. So I've always liked the Giants. I've always rooted for them. I hate Eli Manning. I think he's pure trash, but I like the Giants. Okay. Because I've always been objective. Like, that's just my personality. Like, I'm not gonna like somebody. Like, I love the Knicks. The Knicks are my favorite all-time sports team. Like, I cried when they lost the championship. Okay. So, but I hated Carmelo Anthony. And he's Puerto Rican. I'm Puerto Rican. I should be rooting for this guy. Now, I like Carmelo now. I hated him when he was with the Knicks. He was a ball hog. He didn't play defense. He was a coach killer. I've never been the type to like somebody just because they're my nationality or they're on my team. I'm objective. If you suck, if you're doing a shit job, then I can't get behind that. But so I'm worried about the Giants. I say that to say this. I'm worried about the Giants because Atlanta, I think Arthur Smith is a good coach. Remember, it was Arthur Smith who was the former coordinator for the Tennessee Titans who really turned that team around. Remember, Tannehill? Do you guys remember Tannehill on Miami? He had a couple good years, but then Tannehill was like a dead fish in the water, pun intended. Okay? And he came to Tennessee as the backup to Mariota, who can't stay healthy, already injured, and he's the backup quarterback. How do you get injured as a backup quarterback? Okay? But it was Arthur. Oh, and Derrick Henry. Remember, Derrick Henry was a bust. All of a sudden, Arthur Smith goes there. He creates this offense around Derrick Henry in the running game. They run a zone scheme. They simplify the playbook. They work to Tannehill's strengths. And Tannehill has been, everybody's raving about him this year. Oh, Tannehill, top 10 quarterback, blah, 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 blah. But regardless, he looked really good. And, yeah, they had a really good offense. And everybody's worried about A.J. Brown. Remember, everybody's like, oh, shit, A.J. Brown's such a good talent. Oh, he went to Tennessee. I was one of them. I was like, damn, I love A.J. Brown. He looks so good. And then he could have gone to a worse spot. Why Tennessee get – so I really like Arthur Smith. And I'm going to be quite frank. I kind of regret. I already potentially missed the bus on two players. And again, sometimes when I make my content, I haven't had a chance to look at the film. And two players I might have missed the bus on is Cordell Patterson and Rondale Moore. Because when I went back and looked at the tape, I'm like, oh, shit. They're using Cordell Patterson at receiver, at running back. They're designing plays for him. That's Arthur Smith. Arthur Smith is a damn good coach. a damn good coach. Calvin really just had a bad matchup. You know, Carlton Davis, he does get ate up, but Amari Cooper and Tyreek Hill. But anyway, it wasn't the best matchup, but they still got him involved. He still had a touchdown. He still had a good floor. Cordell Patterson did his thing. Kyle Pitts is involved. So I think Atlanta is not as bad as they were last year. Put it like that. And they kept up with the Bucks until the end. There was some bad turnovers. Like Matt Ryan, I'm not high on. So I guess I'm kind of going back on my I still am concerned about the injuries, but I still also like Justin Jefferson and DK Metcalf. So Rondell Moore and Cordell Patterson, you guys noticed in the Facebook group, I mentioned if they're still available, go get them. And again, that's what film does. But when it's Monday and I'm reviewing all the games, I don't have time to review all the film. I'm looking at the stats, the box scores, blah, 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 trying to remember things because I'm at the pizza shop looking at 6 screens. And even with that, I don't catch all the games. I just catch the 6 that they're playing. So my head's spinning. So I don't really get to watch the game the way I do now when I go back and I'm like, okay, and I press forward and then I press rewind. I'm like, oh, where did he line up? But those are 2 players I would recommend, picking up if they're available. Laviska, Boyd, or Juju. Pick 2. I'll go Boyd, Juju. I think Juju could have a decent game. For 2 reasons. One being the obvious, Deontay Johnson's out. 2 is, he'll be more the possession receiver, and he's lined up against Mike Hinton. Mike Hinton, he gets more. He's not really that good. He's a good tackler. He's a good playmaker, but he's a midget. Juju, for being in the slot, is a big dude. So I think that's a huge mismatch for Juju. And as bad as Ben looked, the ball's got to go somewhere, right? So Claypool has slightly the tough. Oh, yeah, Claypool's going to have the tougher matchup against Awuzie. So I think Juju could have a big game. And then I mentioned Tyler Boyd earlier. I don't know. It's kind of similar situation. T. Higgins is out. Who are you going to go to? The trusted veteran, Tyler Boyd, coming off a 14-point game. Laviska does not look good. Jaguars' offense does not look good. So I think it's pretty I feel pretty good about this decision. Again, it's fantasy. Anything could happen. But I like Boyd and I like Juju quite a bit. What else? Any last questions? If not, hit the road, Jack. All right. Going once. Going twice. 3 times. I'm not seeing anything. You're welcome, Jack. And thank you all for tuning in. As always, guys, if you have any additional questions, post them in the group. No more start sits, though, because I'm going to be coming out with the rankings. I'll be sending that to you this evening. Okay. Just post any comments in the YouTube, in the Facebook group, whatever. Tweet me. Just don't DM me. Yeah, guys. Good luck. Keep your head up if you're 0-2. If you're 1-1, keep that foot on the throttle. And if you're 2-0, don't get too comfortable either. All right, guys? Till next time. Peace. Love y'all.